And we are live to talk about the recent Star Trek Day celebration that CBS put on a few days ago. So I'm joined by a crew of Brian, Dave, and Starfleet Boy. How are y'all doing today?
Yeah.
I'm doing pretty all right. I'm on a weird sleeping schedule, so if I might be a little out of it here, I'll just be making up stuff.
I'm under the weather, but I've been having these Manuka throat lozenges, and they've been miraculous, and also lots of tea and soup. So
Nice.
I'm ready. but I might sometimes look like I'm about to pass. No, I'm just kidding. I'm a lot better than I was yesterday.
That's that Starfleet can-do attitude. That's what Pike would do.
Tea, Earl Grey,
illness. It's true.
Punch him.
Tea, Earl Grey hot. So, I had a book club that got my brain working for me, so I'm in theory as fired up as I'm probably going to get today.
Oh, nice.
So,
your positronic relays are working.
Yeah, as well as they're going to get to in this next 24 hours. So this is as good as I get. Dave, you said you were just going to show up and make things up, but that's what fiction is. So,
Whoa, I didn't know there would be such lofty goals I would be held to. Now I am creator.
I will say I rewatched the TOS panel for this discussion, and I definitely wasn't paying as much attention the first time on Star Trek Day as I did this time, and it was really cool to really listen and tune into what George Takei was saying.
Yeah. Well, anyone else who wasn't paying attention, we're going to kind of recap some of the stuff for you here, but
I'm gonna provide that sounding board because I was not able to catch any of the Trek Day stuff. So I will be the man on the street saying what the hell are you talking about, and mostly jumping in on the disco trailer stuff.
Yeah, I only got through 3 and a half of the panels, so I'm also a bad boy. So.
You're ahead of me.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I watched all of them live, or as live as they were. I think they were pre-recorded, but yes.
Next year, I'm taking the day off. I'm not working on Star Trek Day. I'm gonna if they're gonna do this again, I'm gonna be there 100% for it.
I'm fortunate enough that I get to just work from home on my computer remotely, and all I had to do is just set my phone up on the kickstand, and between my two computer monitors. And just hit play and just let all that stuff play while I was working.
Lucky you.
the celebrations that they did Tuesday, which was September 8th, the anniversary of not just Star Trek the original series, but also Star Trek the animated series premiered on September 8th. So shout out to TAS turned 47 this year.
Hey, your favorite number?
Dave, I just realized your birthday is terribly close right now.
It's in the ballpark. I still got a couple weeks.
Is this the 47th for you, Dave?
It actually is.
Oh, wow.
Holy shit.
I wasn't going to out his age, but
sorry, I apologize.
It's not a big secret.
I'm 42 there.
now 42 and 47. Y'all are the best.
You got the Douglas
ages.
Adams age. I got the Star Trek magic number.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to both those birthdays for me, 42 and 47. 47, I'm going hard. 47. People are going to be talking about man, do you remember Father's 47th birthday? That was so crazy. That was insane.
Do I remember it? Do I remember it?
With the Traveler.
Yeah. Do I remember it?
I'm going to go meet the koala.
Do I remember it? I still have the newspaper clippings hung on my wall.
They don't have newspapers anymore, Brian. What are you talking about?
I have the Kindle stapled to my
Sorry,
phone.
I'm 44. I'm old.
If a Kindle dies, the last thing it was showing is what's stuck on its screen forever.
Burned into it. You just mount the whole Kindle like an old newspaper article.
Yeah.
But the birthday for Star Trek was Tuesday. The franchise itself turned 54, and
Right on. Happy birthday, Trek.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
It was so nice to actually have something official from CBS to celebrate the day. We typically don't get stuff like this anymore. And I think this is something we will see more of in the future. Now that Star Trek is such a big deal, they have so many shows in production. There are rooms full of people. Well, probably not now because they're probably working remotely, but there are entire staffs of people who just work on Star Trek full time now. more so than we've had since the 90s.
Yeah.
It's Tuesday was the first time I felt Star Trek was as big as it was when I was a kid and we had 52 episodes every year and a movie every 2 years. This is the first time I felt like that again.
I like that when you quote that. That was cool. I think you on Star Trek Day.
The I wonder, like, does it feel like that with CBS All Access, the paywall that some fear that it's not as universal as it was, and maybe no shows can ever even be that because everything's kind of streaming.
I mean, like, we were always like a little niche
for sure.
So I don't think it's really changed much.
I do run into a lot of big Star Trek fans who are not doing the new stuff just because they haven't gotten around to CBS All Access. It's a hurdle that they just haven't found the time or energy to look into. So
maybe that's how things will work now, is that there will just be a longer gap until, it was the season 1 of Disco is available, right? Or is that right?
It's gonna be on CBS.
CBS. It's gonna actually air on TV, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that the casual people who might have caught a few episodes of DS9 and a few of Voyager or whatever back in the day will now they're not going to they're not going to pay for the streaming service, but whenever it kind of rolls out a few years later as a promo or something like that, that's when they check it out. Maybe that's just the kind of strange new pattern.
Yeah.
And shows don't go away; they don't evaporate like they used to. Like you miss some episodes of DS9, and it's like, oh well, I don't know when am I going to be able to catch the rerun? Like, how am I going to know what happened? I don't.
Well, obviously,
Father, what's going on with the story arc, and
when you buy the VHS tape with 2 episodes per tape, that's how you catch up.
Was insanely expensive.
Yes, we're just ridiculous. You had to be dedicated.
But the thing with streaming now is like, you can just like watch it whenever you get around to watching it. So,
yep.
And I mean, I know several people who are planning on subscribing for Disco season 3, but they've decided I'll just check out Lower Decks when in between the Disco episodes, and I'm not bothering to subscribe for Lower Decks. And other people who are like, I'm just going to wait till there's a whole bunch of Star Trek on CBS All Access, then I'll subscribe and just massively watch Star Trek. For
the modern bingers.
And that's what we're going to get to before long. We're going to have that like 50 episodes a year type thing. I think what they're gonna do is have like 6 shows that are always coming out, and so like whenever one season ends, it's the same thing as like, I know the DC universe just like stopped with all their like shows, and they're just kind of like a comic books streaming app now. But I like the DC universe model of every Friday there is a new episode of something, of Titans, of Doom Patrol, of Harley Quinn, of Stargirl. They just like every week there is a new episode, and it's easy to follow. You're not getting like too many shows like the CW model where they have like all these Flash and Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow, like all, it's like every night of the week. If you take a week off, then like you're 4 or 5 episodes behind. I like the model of just like a weekly release, and I can handle 1 episode of Star Trek every week for the rest of my life, for as long as they want to do this. I'm happy.
Given how much work Fathery has to put in for each episode that comes out, I don't know how many episodes Fathery would actually want to do a week.
I was gonna say I actually appreciate the breaks. I think like a 26 episode year is not bad. It's not so bad. But everything you said, I think is really cool. I was just thinking that like it'd be neat if Star Trek, if they continue to do what they're doing with Discovery, where eventually it does have a slot on regular TV that everyone has access to, because I do think that Star Trek deserves to be not behind a paywall. I just think it's such a cultural like necessity. I don't know if that's being too Star Trekky here, but I just think that it should be available to everyone who wants to see it.
The fully automated luxury gay space communism needs a more communistic distribution.
I mean, like, if you can find a way to like not have like these corporations like own all of our entertainment, then great. But like in the meantime, like
public television has streaming that's free to everyone, and maybe CBS can donate the original series and TNG to public television so it can stream for free instead of being behind a paywall.
They
So that would
stream
be
for
cool.
free now on Pluto. We got to watch.
Oh, they do? Okay, I didn't know that. Sorry.
Yeah, Pluto TV. Pluto TV has a Star Trek channel. So I downloaded Pluto onto my PlayStation, and it's just like you just turn on like a TV channel basically, where it's just like it just plays Star Trek all day with.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mainly TNG, but they threw a Lower Decks episode in there too. They had like one of the new Lower Decks episodes, so that was kind of crazy. Let's talk about like the streaming thing that CBS did Tuesday. They kicked off things in the morning. They actually showed some Star Trek episodes, and just curated from the various shows.
Starting with Broken Bow.
Oh, was that, I missed that one. When I turned it on, it was actually on the Man Trap that aired on September 8th.
They did Broken Bow first. I guess they wanted to start with the beginning Stardate Order. I don't
know. Trying to do Stardate Order.
Yes.
Was that a two-parter? Did they show both?
They showed both, yeah. I actually didn't see it. I woke up right in time to watch the ending, and I had to because like a notification actually somehow my brain like heard a notification in the middle of sleep, and I woke up and I was like, oh, Star Trek's on. And so I started watching it. And it was kind of cool to see that ending, even though it bothers me. Like, I remembered why I was bothered by it when I was a kid. I was like, that's not what Klingons look like in this era. That kind of thing. It was the same old arguments that I make about Star Trek Discovery. But anyways, it was still
like nice to see a Klingon blow up a grain silo, though. That's what I'm there for.
Yeah, it was a nice big explosion. It wasn't like a CGI explosion. Like they actually blew some shit up. I like that.
I do like that opening.
Yeah, I do too.
It actually is a great show. Now I like Enterprise a lot.
They also had I think the third episode they did was the Visitor, the Deep Space Nine episode. And they were dropping in like some short treks between the episodes. But yeah, like the Visitor, I'm kind of half paying attention to it because I'm working, but I have like the Visitor playing on my phone next to my.
I think they did Caretaker first because the Visitor was on when I was at work already. This is like how I remember the day because I had it. I like you. I had it on in the background, but unlike you, I couldn't concentrate on it except for like little glimpses because my work is a little different. But I think it was Caretaker parts 1 and 2. Is that what it's called? The first episode of Voyager.
Yeah.
And then they did the Visitor after. They did it in a wonky, weird order, but I liked it. It was fine.
It made me start crying though. Like that episode, it's like I went through like a weird thing where like that was like one of my favorite episodes ever, and then I was like, is this episode really as good as everyone thinks it is? And now like I've circled back around to like oh my god, it makes me cry so much. But
it's true.
They kicked off the panels. They did these in a weird order. They did Discovery first. So that's the one that we're gonna talk about and just kind of like recap. Dave, you didn't watch the panel, but you watched the trailer.
Correct.
So, we'll talk about
whatever people said about it will be new and exciting to me.
We had some of the actors and some of the writers, producers for the show, including Sonequa Martin Green, who plays Michael Burnham. David Ajala, who plays the new character, Cleveland Booker, or Book, as I think he's going to be called. And then we had the executive producers, Alex Kurtzman and Michelle Paradise. One of the things I'm really excited about with Discovery Season 3 is that this is the first season of this TV show where you had like one person in charge of the writer's room the entire season beginning to end with Michelle Paradise. And I have big hopes for her. Just like the little bit of stuff I've seen from her, she's a very clever, very funny person. I saw her at Star Trek Las Vegas a year ago, and I listened to like some of the DVD commentaries on Discovery Season 2. I bought the Blu-ray, and she's like so funny on like the commentaries and stuff. Oh, nice. And she wrote the episode Project Daedalus in Season 2 where Arium dies. Mm-hmm. And to me, like that was like a really good episode, and how it was written, because it was like, oh look, they're trying to put like these little character moments between like the bridge crew, and it's like a lot of like the pillar filler stuff that's got started on Next Generation, and it was like such a good effort to like make me care about Arium by the end of the episode. That even though I think it was like kind of a awkward thing to do, to be like, I'm going to make you care about this character. Who's just been like background set dressing, and
A
then
little bit of a Hail Mary.
Yeah, but it was if you're given that assignment, that's a hard thing to pull off. But the results worked for me. I got to admit, I thought it was like some strong writing. So I'm very happy to see her in charge of the entire show. I think that she's going to have the push the character stuff more to the front and center, and more from like the secondary characters.
We also is there sort of a general agreement that the first 2 seasons felt like in any given season felt a little bit meandery as far as focus goes?
Yeah, like the show from beginning has kind of felt like it wasn't quite sure what it wanted to do. It wanted to be like this gritty, well, even like the 2-hour premiere is a big tonal shift from like episode 3.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then it wants to be like this gritty war show, and then it wants to like be like this like big grandiose backstabby politics mirror universe Game of Thrones type show. And then like they bring in Pike, and all of a sudden it wants to be like this fun, exciting, very TOS type show,
nostalgia trip in a way.
Yeah, like nostalgia trip.
And some of that, it's not just that they do different things. I mean, you watch even DS9, which tries to be archy, and every episode often has a very different tone and focus and energy to it. But with Discovery, there's a constant sense of we're promising this in the future. The pilot promises this kind of story, and then the 3rd episode promises a different kind of story. And then once we get to the mirror universe, that's something that wasn't promised at all, and we spend quite a bit of time there doing something very different than and a lot of these kind of implied promises of what kind of story you're going to get in going forward are not met. And I think that's why it feels more awkward. Whereas DS9 can have a stupid Ferengi episode right next to some sort of horrible war is hell episode. And it works because they're not promising what next week's going to be. They're saying this is what this week is.
So I don't know if we're quite ready to dive into the nitty gritty of the trailer, but what do y'all think this show is going to be like based on the trailer? What do you think that her vision will be?
Star Trek Andromeda.
Yeah.
I never watched Andromeda. You got to.
I didn't watch it either. I think that like for me, just the overall impression is that Star Trek Discovery feels like it's finally found its home in the distant future where I think it should have always been. And I think that like that's what's most exciting about the trailer to me, is that like it doesn't have, and they use this kind of I don't know who says it specifically, but it was nice to hear the producers admitting that the weight of canon was a little too much to set Discovery pre-TOS, and yet make it seem more advanced in some ways, even in just the ideas, than what we later see in TOS. So I like the fact that I think in season 3 the show will come alive, and I'm very hopeful for it because I like all the performers. I like a lot of the individual elements of Discovery, and I really think that now it's going to be able to become a show of its own.
I certainly hope that is the case, because I definitely got a good vibe out of what Paradise is her name?
Michelle Paradise.
Yeah. I got a good vibe off of her from the panel. I was like, she seems like she knows what's up. So I'm very confident about that, or at least happy with that. And I'd certainly like the show to find itself. If nothing else, it looks like it has. The trailer promises a strong, unified vision for season 3. Whether that means that season 4 will also have a strong, unified vision is a different question, I suppose. But they do seem to. Again, they're promising this is what we are going to get very strongly, and we'll see if they actually deliver that or not.
I can't tell how much of what I was seeing was, from like the first few episodes and how much was later in the season. But the vibe I got was kind of an optimistic survival sci-fi.
Yeah.
That there would definitely be that Trek bonding, but under duress, minus the post-scarcity environment of TNG and a lot of the other shows. And I kind of like that, although I was, there was a little bit of that like a little lament that that this was a fallen Federation era.
Yeah. Did you want me to go over Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda real quick, since that was tossed out there?
What's the what's the elevator pitch on Andromeda?
Our Buck Rogers action hero gets is part of the United Federation of Planets, only it's multiple galaxies and it's got a different name because copyright. And then he gets him and his super awesome starship get frozen in time, and with the rest of the crew evacuated because reasons. And when he escapes from being frozen in time, the Confederacy or the Commonwealth, the Commonwealth has fallen, and the Mongol hordes from beyond the fringes have come in and destroyed everything. He was actually just seeing the beginning of that when he gets frozen in time, and then he wakes up hundreds of years later and everything's gone to hell, and he's decided, I'm going to rebuild the Commonwealth, and he goes around as Kevin Sorbo heroically rebuilding the Commonwealth in Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda.
That Father, your comparison seems very astute. Well played.
And this was when I just given the hints that we were getting earlier and just my own thoughts on it, what I was hoping we would get. I loved the premise of Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda, and I kind of felt like once they lost Robert Hewitt Wolf, their DS9 showrunner, he got booted shortly into season 2, and I kind of lost interest. And when it became the Kevin Sorbo Action Power Hour,
excising the tumor that is Kevin Sorbo is always a good thing.
Yeah, well, they didn't excise him. The tumor excised the good bits.
In the 90s, his characters were fine.
I
Kevin Sorbo's kind of a prick.
Yes,
I
didn't know about Christopher Nolan. I'm so disappointed to find out.
Oh yeah, Christopher Nolan sucks. Also, Christopher Nolan's an asshole.
Talking about the big director guy.
Yeah.
Was there some new thing about him? I don't know about this. Not the sidetrack.
He's just always been a pretentious prick, and I'm kind of glad that his new movie tanked. But it sucks for everyone else who worked on that movie. Who is like, if any of the actors are like hoping to get like some, they had negotiated like some box office percentage into their paycheck. It makes me sad for them, but I'm glad that it happened to Nolan. Anyway,
Kevin Sorbo of directing.
Yes,
he's just kind of an elitist asshole. But hey, I like most of his movies.
Yeah,
let's talk about this logo, this new logo.
Well, to finish what I was saying, I loved Andromeda's premise. I didn't necessarily like all of the execution, so I'm really glad we're getting another shot at trying to do this premise properly.
All right.
Yeah, and it's a premise that I kind of hate, but I'm trying to like give it a shot because I don't want to see like a defeated Federation. So it's just I'm very nervous about how they pull that off.
Kind of going back to some of the discussions we've had about previous seasons of Disco and sort of its darker tone. Like, don't you feel like that because Trek is always a reflection of its era, that to have like the Shining Starfleet, would feel disingenuous right now? That the idea that it's the ideals are maybe more potent in this kind of fallen future, or at least are the important thing over the execution.
I think there's some truth to that, but that kind of like spits in the face of what Star Trek was created to be in the 60s, when things are also a very troubling time, and people I think were tired of that reality, and they needed to see that okay, we're going to get out of this and things are going to get better and a brighter future. There's a
fine line of holding that mirror, but also giving you like a vision of a better path than the one you're on right now. And
it's a balancing act. You got to do both.
It's like a balancing act. Yeah, I like what Scott Bakula said about that. On speaking of going back to the panels for a second and skipping around, but he kind of gave, to paraphrase him, he kind of gave a similar speech about how like Star Trek represents this like hopeful future, and it guides us through these dark times to help us to like realize that hopeful future is not truly out of our grasp. It's still there, and like that's what you need Star Trek to do sometimes. And I think it's a fine line.
I wonder if go ahead,
I'd also throw out real quick, we're getting both. We're getting Strange New Worlds, we're getting Star Trek Discovery, so we get to have the cake and eat it too.
Yes, sure. I think Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks are going to be like the bright happy Star Treks, and then like Discovery and Picard are going to be like the sad, miserable Star Treks where people
Stop
get
it.
ripped apart, bloody and early.
The sad, miserable.
People get their eyes ripped out.
What if every episode of the episodic Strange New Worlds is actually just some grim and gritty, horrible world?
Well, I'd be very
Rated of the
We're not
weeks
talking
will
about
all be
Strange New
dark,
Worlds now.
fallen planets.
Hey, we just
We're-
got
we're
off
gonna-
our
we're gonna
nerdy
talk about
discussion,
that.
and that's really dark stuff. It freaks me the heck out. So, like, like it's not always episodic. Doesn't mean you're gonna get a bright, happy future.
But
Yeah,
All
but
right,
they're
so
definitely
Audrey,
selling Strange New Worlds as the original series Mark II, or maybe
Yes.
original series Beta finally gone into production.
what do y'all think about the new logo for Discovery?
I like it.
Didn't notice it.
Yeah,
They made a big deal about it.
yeah.
but-
I'm not sure about that V.
The V is kind of the weirdo outlier.
I like it. It's like it's
the
whooshing.
Enterprise.
It is.
It's
But
going
only-
into warp speed and it's taking the other rest of it with it.
Yeah,
I think it's meant. I think it's meant to say that the V is going to push the ERY away, and it'll be disco very, as in very disco. So that's. I think that's what that means.
You know, my favorite episode of season 1 was the one with the big the party scene where they were all throwing down at the party. So a very disco show I'm into.
yeah.
But I think the show did. I'm sorry. The trailer did kind of hammer in a lot of the spectacle of some of
Right.
the visuals. Star Trek Discovery has always been kind of really like push the envelope with like the CGI, and it looks even better in season 3. Like some of these ship shots and the production design. There's so many like new environments, new sets, new locations. It's almost like a new show. We're gonna get so much new stuff.
Father, are
new
you
characters.
forwarding through the little teaser for the trailer that they put at the beginning?
No, that is the. I think that's the whole.
This is the actual
maybe.
trailer.
Yeah.
This is
Okay,
the whole
I
show.
wasn't sure.
Where
What was I
were
gonna
they
say?
filmed?
Yeah,
In
it looks like
Scotland or something, or in Ireland? It's beautiful.
Iceland.
Sorry.
you're talking about that area with
Iceland.
those really obsidian rocks and
The
stuff.
volcano.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Iceland.
Yeah.
Yeah,
amazing.
that's really beautiful. It looked like it was a real, Earth modern, like an Earth set, but I had no idea where. It's all volcanic looking rock, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if we're going to see Earth or if Earth is even still around in this
I
1,000
know
years.
there's some little
further in the
little
future.
hints that there might be a foul end to the Earth.
I don't know if
Yeah.
I'd say like there's any strong hints, but there's definitely
What
some
about the
stuff
tree
in there.
hugging? The tree hugging scene. Come on.
That
Why
doesn't
would they
mean
hug a
Earth
tree?
is dead, but I
That's
think
got to be
wrong.
just we're getting out of the Discovery ship and we get to get a breath of fresh air, right?
yeah, we actually
Yeah.
get like some sunlight. Uh,
Although you
But-
see the disco crash in the grand tradition of Enterprise and Voyager ships.
Yeah.
So one thing that stood out to me in the trailer is that Burnham is wearing gold on her uniform. I think she is
Ah,
now officially the first officer, and Saru is the captain. There's a
very
couple
nice.
shots where you see the pips on his badge, and it looks like he's at the captain rank now. So it's going to be Captain Saru and First Officer Burnham.
I've been
He
rooting
is the
for him
ranking
for
officer.
the whole run, so I'm happy. I like that.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
me
I-
too. I like Captain Saru.
I like that they are kind of acknowledging some of the glimpses of this far future we've seen before. Like apparently like Starfleet still exists, so it's not as like post-apocalyptic as I was worried things were going to be. We see like a future Starfleet officer, and her 32nd century uniform looks kind of like the 29th century uniform we saw in Voyager. So I like that. They chose this time period specifically, the 32nd century, because like the furthest thing that we've really seen before that was like the 31st in Enterprise. That's where Daniels was from. So I think they're like, okay, let's just go like a little bit past that so that we can like do whatever we want.
Yeah.
We were also get a lot of shots of Michelle Yeoh as Emperor Giorgio in the show. So I don't know how this is going to tie into setting her up for Section 31.
What makes you say Emperor in this, Father?
Well, I mean, like that's still like her title, right?
Right.
But they're not going to like call her that. Isn't she just like Commander?
She doesn't even really technically shouldn't have a rank.
They gave her like the rank of captain when she's in.
But
Section
really
31.
she shouldn't
That's-
have that. That's just a sham rank.
But yeah, because they like all off records, she's from the Mirror Universe. But like, I guess like whatever official documentation, it's like she's like the same person who commanded the Shinjo. But no, I just always, Dave, I always call her Emperor, and I always call the Prime Universe one Captain, just to like distinguish them. This is like the
it's just that, like the more she gets removed from it, the stranger it sounds. I still don't know whatever character arc they want to take her on.
Well,
but
I can see.
I guess I don't.
This is like the Man in the Iron Mask
way.
gone wrong.
Yeah,
like
from a storytelling point of view, she's probably going to be the Avon from a Blake 7 point of view, or the Tyr Anasazi from a Andromeda point of view. The bad person who might betray the heroes at some point, who stays with the heroes because that's the best deal for them at the moment. And they're the ones that point out all the hard choices and the hard solutions, and that maybe our heroes need to do, or the heroes like, oh well, we could just kill these people and then that would make all our problems go away. But that's not very Starfleet. And she's the one who's going to offer that other point of view and offer that temptation.
That sounds right.
And
she's also,
sometimes she might even sneak off and just do it herself.
We know that she has like the high skill level to kind of accomplish it, and she'd be like basically a great person to have in your pocket. She'd be kind of a charismatic person to guide some people, just because she can get shit done.
Yeah,
she's the scorpion on the frog. I just hope the river doesn't end. That's a very good callback to Star Trek Voyager. But yeah, it's going to be interesting having her around, and also like this character Book. I'm not 100% sure what his role is going to be, but it might be
his role is sexy fathery.
Well, he's going to be the guy who's like, explain like what happened here, what happened to the Cardassians in like 900 years. And he's like, it's funny you asked that, Tilly. Let me tell you all about it conveniently because I'm from this time period and I know.
He's much
sexier. Dialogue, it's going to be like that verbatim.
Yeah, he's much sexier than Neelix, though, as far as a local guy goes.
So he'll be the sexy Neelix. Okay,
the sexy Neelix.
Honestly, I guess maybe I'm just easy on shows, but like when they do exposition through characters like that, like through the newbie to the world and the experienced person, I usually kind of like it. It's honestly probably something I'm probably going to kind of look forward to seeing how they precisely pull off.
Yeah, no. I think that stuff is essential. If you care about like world building and that type of stuff to it. And I like that we see like familiar Trek races in this trailer as well as like the other trailer. Like right now I have like an Orion on screen, and there's some Andorians in here.
Yeah.
We are getting the new Trill character. I want to talk about like the new characters in a minute because they mentioned that. And of course, tree hugging.
Yeah, they're just wearing it right on their sleeve. Okay,
that's a beautiful. What is that, by the way? Is that an oak tree, like a live oak tree? It's so beautiful. It's a big.
What if that's a tree that was like planted in like the time of like discovery, like in the 20s?
I'm sure it's gonna be something like
900 years later.
I'm sure it's gonna be something nice and sweet like that. But I have one of those minds that just leans towards the Earth exploding, and it's
the tree has psychically possessed them and has taken control of everyone.
Right, that's what I was thinking, Brian. It's a TOS plot.
That would be so far out. I love it.
One of their security guards is going to get spores in his face from the branches.
I love Sonequa Martin Green's look in this season too, with the dreadlocks. She really pulls that off. I
honestly. I loved her. I guess what I think of as Janelle Monáe look in like early disco seasons.
The first two episodes. I thought she looked really good like that. And then they changed her hairdo in that 6-month gap when she's on the prison shuttle. Mm-hmm. But I like this, and I also like if you notice in like some of the shots, you can actually see like they have like these future badges that I guess they're recruited.
The rounded ones.
Yeah, and even that
like
design, that design kind of looks similar to the 29th century comm badge. Even though it's like 300 years later, there's still some similarity.
Maybe it's her character has progressed some from season 1 for sure, and B, this trailer shows a few moments of her kind of being giddy or laughing and excited, and I think that combined with a literal let the hair down kind of look. It has a feeling of being a somewhat more relaxed. I don't know if this is true of it, but at least the vibe I'm getting is more relaxed and a little bit more kind of chill Burnham.
Yeah.
maybe?
More relaxed, even though like we're in the future where like everything has gone to shit. And the character book mentions something called the burn happened, and
Right.
that's a mystery. I'm glad we don't know much about it. I
We
want
do know
They do-
though.
yeah.
We do know that it's not because Starfleet and the Federation failed in any way. It's an external force that like
yes,
Yeah.
came
Right.
in and just
and that
kinda,
was
like,
important. That's
Yeah.
important to me.
Can I be a poo-pooer on the badges for a second before we move too far from that topic? Can I poo-poo?
Yeah, well, we
the
got
male
one on
poo-poo?
screen now, so go ahead.
Real quick
Poo-poo
poo-poo.
all over Saru and his new badge.
Like in current technology, we can like build shit into clothing. Like there should be no badges in this far in the future that you have to put on your garment. It should just somehow be like molecularly implanted.
We
into
don't
the
need no
garment.
stinking badges.
Yeah, we
I
don't
have
need
a-
no stinking badges.
I have a weird comic book analog to this debate. So when I was growing up, Iron Man in the comics carried his like a briefcase around that had like a compacted version of his armor, and you would still always see him put it on in segments like he was gearing up. Later, of course, in the movies and stuff, it became all nanotech and it would just like flow onto him. And they made it look pretty cool, but I always kind of missed the gear up scenes from when I was a kid, even though that technology clearly outdated. So there's something about the badges being outdated and like, maybe they shouldn't even have like guns that are like phasers, that there'd be some better way of doing it.
It's like
But I think
they
those
have these
recognizable
pulse cannons.
things, they make it feel a little bit more, I don't know, modern and fun, or like they're a vestige of doing something just because it's neat.
I just think it'd be a cool callback to the original series if it's no longer like a badge, but something that's built in. Like they had patches, right? So like it'd be a cool like. It's so far in the future that now we're back to that instead of having a thing that you physically put on.
Right.
Cool.
It could even have like a sort of little touch thing, where you could, just like a screen, pressure sensitive,
Yeah, but then you couldn't say, then I resign and pull the badge off and throw it on the table and walk out. You lose that.
And if the
It's true.
on the chest, you might accidentally transport up to the ship.
Yeah.
Good points. I'll have to reconsider.
I always have to wonder, how will this be affected by a Gorn punch?
The other big takeaway from the Discovery panel is we were introduced to Book's cat named I thought they were saying grunge, but I'm looking at it written here on Trek Movie that's grudge.
That is a timely reference.
I thought they named it grunge after the musical genre.
This guy is going to be a heartthrob. Look at him. He's sexy and he's a cat lover, dude. What a guy.
I know, like all three of y'all really like cats. So
Yes, that's true.
I wanted to point this out.
They said this cat is 19 pounds. That's not messing around.
It's a Maine Coon. They had a little special on the cat, and guys, the Grudge has a Twitter account, so you can follow on Twitter. For those of you who have Twitter,
that's so good. I have a Maine Coon too, so I'm fully behind this cat.
Yeah.
I don't
My
know if
cat
I
is
fully like the idea of embracing the cats are assholes notion with the name, but I have a feeling he will be a fun presence. Trek has had its share of dogs, and I think not enough cats.
that's
So-
true. And I think also, by the way, I do resent
dogs. It's poor person number one.
Since Spot was a cat, so that's true. But I mean, just I think that like it's great that Maine Coons are there because we've had a lot of tabby representation on Star Trek, and I think it's finally it's time that there was Maine Coon representation as well.
Break out the big guns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
These cats are behemoths.
I think this is part of one thing that they seem to be promising. They yes, it's going to be a dark future, but it's also going to be a much more fun show. They aren't.
Yeah.
The show is not selling us all the angst and the dark and the what's wrong with Spock and stuff. They're saying this is going to be excitement and adventure and really wild things. Is what the trailer promises.
To Fathery, who does not like cats, that cat is part of a dark future.
Yeah. I will say
the cats are doing pretty well. If this thing grew this large,
cats are responsible for the burn. Actually, they now dominate. They dominate the galaxy. The external force we find out at the end is Grudge the cat.
Yeah,
Grudge.
that is the primary antagonist of season 3.
What a twist!
Hey, like this is the stupidest question in the world, but there's just no chance that the burn has any tie to Burnham, right? Like as it's just
I hope it's not something like you were prophesized to be like the one to save us from the burn.
there's just
Like-
no way. There's no way.
There was a prophecy of the burn
If
man
you
coming
throw
to
some
save us,
ham
but
on,
it's
if you
actually
throw
a burn
some ham on a burn, it could be. If you throw some cool ham on a burn, it could be soothing.
That was when the sick burn took the galaxy.
But we'll go ahead, Brian, and then we'll talk about like the new characters that were mentioned.
Actually, I'll let go ahead. I think I was going to say something about them, so I'll let you introduce it.
So earlier this month, there was an announcement of 2 new characters coming to Star Trek Discovery that were going to be a gender non-binary character named Gray, who apparently is a Trill, and we see him in the trailer. And the other character,
It wouldn't be him, Fabry, that we see in the trailer. Just you would see them.
Right.
I'm sorry. I Gray is the him. Gray is
the actor.
Gray is the transgender man.
Gotcha. Oh, I'm sorry.
And then
you're right.
The gender non-binary is Adira.
Adira. Okay.
Right. They are Adira. Right.
They are.
Yeah.
Very cool. I kind of sometimes when they roll out these announcements, I actually haven't read all the text on it. And I don't know how much. I think there was like character bios with them.
Not real, like very vague stuff.
I wish there were, because message board threads get filled up with assholes who are like, some variant of either "who cares" or "Trek's always been open." Nobody would even care in the future, so why call attention to it, you snowflakes? Like and a lot of people who are like, well, I guess it's okay, but I just care about there being good characters. I don't see gender. So I wish they had thrown out more than just the decision. I wish we did know more about the characters, just to kind of shut some of the real surface obnoxiousness down.
Yeah, well, I don't want to know much about the characters for like selfish reasons, and that like I don't want to have any spoilers. I want to like go in kind of blind or as blind as possible. But
that kind of like, this is sort of what their skill set is, and maybe they're on a redemption arc, or this is an angry person, or whatever their kind of hook is, without saying specifics.
In the Star Trek, if you were just to like only consider what's shown in the Star Trek universe itself, just like in real life, the vast majority of people identify one way or another. So gender binary characters would still be a minority. I feel like gender neutral characters, and also trans characters seem like they would still be a minority and still worth investigating in some way. In a way that's highlighted, because even still, like, the vast majority of the galaxy in Star Trek is seems to identify as either male or female. So it's one or the other of the genders. We rarely get anything beyond that. So I think it's going to be interesting to explore in universe, and it will hold that mirror up in a way that's like natural. Like, I hope.
But yeah, it is important that they did like announce this and like kind of make a big deal about it, because everyone I know who is not a like cisgender person who has interest in Star Trek was really excited by this. And
it was really cool.
If anyone doesn't understand like why it is kind of like a big deal and a good thing, then I encourage you to go watch Jessie Gender's YouTube video on this subject, and just see like her level of enthusiasm and getting like this a bit of like representation for someone who's a member of like the trans community. And I was a bit like, like, why would you want to like deny that to someone? Like let them have like a big deal about it.
And in the meantime, you get to learn something about a segment of our civilization of humanity that isn't often portrayed correctly. So
and one thing I want to throw out there is that if they made a big deal about it in the show, it would probably feel unnatural, because as we say, this should be something that isn't even hardly worth talking about in the 24th or 23rd or the whatever century we're in. 32nd century. However, it is a big deal for the viewers. So making a big deal of it in the promotional material like they've done is, I think, the best way to approach that, is that it can be a big deal in the promotional material, but not a big deal in the show itself.
Yeah. Like to me, like I don't even know if they ever need to even like say maybe they would want to confirm it, but it shouldn't even come up. Like the word transgender just like shouldn't even be a thing that's like remarkable.
I hope Star Trek gives us a way, as it always has done, to kind of create a new framework to talk to people about, to create a new framework of discussion and even just interaction for real life humans through this fantasy. So I hope it's presented in a way that I think will help guide those of us, because like I myself, I'm not going to take up too much of your time, but have had a really rough journey with like the concepts of like transgender and non-binary, and it took me a long time to get to a place where I'm like, oh, I understand. Like, so I think it's going to be exciting for a lot of people.
One of the ways Trek can do that. Sorry, go ahead, y'all.
Well, I was just gonna say, it's something like a lot of us, like you don't know it until like you're told. So,
right. And I was going to say that one of the ways Trek can do this is that even though many of the characters most of the characters we would think of in Starfleet would be, so it would be so progressive, it would be just casual at that point. Someone like Saru, who's from another culture, might not be familiar, and that becomes their opportunity to talk about it. And he says he'd be like, well, on my planet it is more strictly defined, or yes, this is something that is comparable to something, and among my people. But anyway, in any case, yeah, Trek, I think, will find a framework to talk about it, and hopefully they can talk about it with nuance and without making it like sort of like a a very special episode, for lack of
But I've always wanted to believe that there were just like a ton of transgender people in Star Trek, and we just didn't know, because like the gender reassignment is so good that like, oh yeah, like maybe Uhura was born a man, or
I was wondering,
maybe
just like they retconned
a woman.
They sort of retconned Sulu into being gay. They could retcon Riker into being transgendered. I mean,
that'd be awesome.
There's nothing really stopping them with the medical technology of the 24th century. So, but I did have a question about these characters. It looks like we're going to get a bit of Trill, like maybe even a whole Trill episode or more than that. With them. Father, you've been wanting more DS9 in your Discovery in all Trek. Does this feel like, given that the Trill were pretty much a DS9 thing, does this feel like that's going to scratch some of that itch for you?
Yeah, I love the idea of like returning to the Trill homeworld, which was established in Deep Space Nine, and seeing those caves again in that is all very exciting to me. Is there anything else anyone wanted to add to Star Trek Discovery, and then we can move on to the other panels?
I just wanted to say I love this trailer. I love every scene in this trailer. I want to see what this whole scene is. I love everything that the voiceover says in this trailer. This is exactly what I was hoping season 3 of Discovery would be, and I'm really, really excited that what I was hoping is what they are now promising, and I hope I actually get it. So,
I feel very similar.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry, speak on.
Oh no, I was saying like my sentiments exact. That's all.
So I made a few quick notes while I was watching, and if it's cool, I wouldn't mind. I'd like to just quick lightning round a few questions of my notes to y'all.
Okay.
They say, Burnham says in the narration, this is a one-way trip, no going back. Do y'all think that's true? And if it is a one-way trip, are you cool with it?
The writers have said that like they don't plan on returning to the 23rd century. So unless they're lying, that's not going to happen.
Or they change showrunners.
So yes to both. I like that. I hope they don't come back and it's a one-way trip, and I'm very cool with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with them not going back. I never say never in science fiction.
Right.
But and obviously the Emperor has to get back somehow at some point.
Yeah, for her show.
Or Ash gets teleported to the future. Who knows? One never knows.
But the idea of like them doing Strange New Worlds, that's going to be here's our show about a ship in the 2250s. They're not going to like double down, do like 2 shows about 2 different ships in the 2250s. Like, I don't think that's going to happen.
Right. No, I don't think so either. I think this is probably going to be its new home, unless this will bring me to, it's like another thing. It looked like they were using the Spore drive. I was thinking that might be a little, was that something that they couldn't do anymore?
It was unwise, unhealthy, environmentally damaging.
They at least
they
show
make-
it
they make a
twice in
big-
the trailer, I
Well,
think.
they make a big deal in season 1 of how like we shouldn't use this anymore, and then in season 2 they just ignore that and use it. But again, it's like the show like kind of like not knowing what it wants to do.
And there's been
Right.
centuries for the ecosystem to heal, so that it can take a little more abuse now.
It would certainly allow them to have a wide scope of touring this, strange new future if they could use this board.
I have a theory on that. Here's my theory that I'm basing this on very little information. So who knows if this is right or not? But I think whatever this burn is that like kind of damaged things,
Mhm.
I think it like wiped out all of Starfleet's ships. Because at some point in the trailer, like Burnham says, Starfleet is more than just ships.
Yep.
And so I think
She says it's the people.
yeah, so I think that like the Discovery shows up and Starfleet is like, oh yay, we got a ship again. So here's all the stuff we need you to do, and you can like hop around on your core drive and do
They're gonna
it.
give her like
Yeah.
a clipboard of
I
stuff
also-
to do.
I mean,
We're finally going to get the transwarp beaming. Is that what you're telling me?
Jesus,
the
Brian.
They forgot how to do when Spock Prime went back in time. That information was lost.
the problem with the spore drive has been supposedly that they didn't have a navigator computer that was like as nuanced or whatever as a brain or can
Right.
be. So hopefully by this time in the future, like the future Starfleet people are like, oh yeah, we'll just install this new computer on the Discovery, and now you can spore jump all you want without having to have a living navigator, which would be cool.
I
And
hope
then
they
the
do at least
computer
throw
will
out
say-
whatever techno babble they want to for that explanation.
Yeah.
Let's see. I note. I just wanted to compliment the cool, like sort of black trench coats that Burnham and maybe some of the others were sporting. I think I saw like
Yeah.
Tilly.
Saru and
Yeah.
Tilly are wearing them too.
Arguably, it's very '90s Matrix, but I thought they looked cool. You could argue also say it looks like a classic like pea coat kind of thing. So
It's kind of like the logo. If you go pull up Discovery Season 3 on the CBS All Access app for those in the United States, like us, you actually like see like this banner of like Burnham holding up the Federation
Yeah.
flag and everyone like their like ragtag black leather coat gear.
I do like a ragtag look.
Which is odd because the show is promising a lighter tone, but everyone's dressing meaner and darker.
Yeah.
So.
So it still kind of seems like a little like to me, like this is all very mixed. It's like we're gonna be lighter and fun, but also like dark and a fallen Federation and
It
an
looks like,
unfortunate future. It's both.
Burnham
and
is going to be separate from the crew at least for a time, right?
yeah, but I think that she like reconnects with them pretty quickly. Like
I wasn't
within,
sure.
a-
Like it could be like she's all trench coated up on her world, and they show up to rescue her, and they have some mission there, and just for that episode, they got a trench coat up because everybody on that world is all
could
apocalyptic.
be. I don't know. Maybe that's the first episode.
Yeah.
Episode.
It could
Yeah.
be.
Let's see. I wanted to mention there's a guy in there who says that the Federation, or he's like, you've got no authority here. So I thought that was interesting. Very often the Federation is portrayed as kind of, and Starfleet is sort of being a, like for lack of a better word, the cops of the galaxy that show up with, with the ideas on fixing a situation. And so what happens when, you don't have that authority? Voyager and other shows have touched on that, but I will be interested to hear what a diminished Federation looks like trying to solve problems for people who maybe don't want it. And I think everything else that I made notes on, we actually ended up covering. So that was
Right.
it. I just wanted to knock a few of those out.
Okay, well, I'm going to run through like some of these comments, and then we'll move on to the other
Yeah.
panels. We're going to have much to say on the other panels.
Hi,
This is-
SC.
SC is watching. SC says, "Please, Discovery, be epic. Lower Decks and Strange New World can be OG Trek. Discovery needs to rock us for millennial new Trekkers." I think it might be the show that has like the most appeal to the Trek noobs.
Yeah, I like that.
Alexandra says it would be interesting if they managed to find a natural way to explore identity and symbiosis and how gender fluidity fits into that. Yeah, the trailer a good vehicle for that. Jadzia Dax is like a transgender icon now that was never intended to be. It's just like a happy accident.
Right, and I think that was one of the other frustrations I had in some of the initial comments was like, they've already done this. It was done with Dax, and I was like you said, it was kind of more of a happy accident. They were probably I believe commenting on other ideas. Certainly, gender was a big part of that, but things have changed a lot in the last 20 years, and there's a lot of there's a lot more to discuss and to celebrate, I think.
Yeah,
This might be a wild card, but I'm really hoping that the symbiont is Dax.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I hope that even though I kind of hate like Star Trek, like if they get too fan servicey and try to connect the dots and try to like make everybody knew everybody, like if they do that, okay, Jadzia Dax like knew Dr. McCoy. She was around on Deep Space Nine during all the stuff that went down there, and now she's gonna know like Spock's sister.
Right,
like,
the C-3PO effect.
I think it would be fun to have her show up for an episode, the Dax symbiote show up for an episode. I wouldn't want to make her necessarily a regular, but then I said the same thing.
Is the Dax symbiote a female?
Well, it doesn't.
You're talking about y'all are talking about Jadzia, but there's Ezri, there's a Nebula, there's like all kinds of
Curzon.
I made up Nebula, by the way. I don't know. There's no Nebula.
Can't just do that.
It seems to take the gender of the host. And
Gray
is
my gosh, that's why Dax is a transgender. Oh, I get that makes sense. Sorry, just clicked.
Yeah, to go from like Curzon to Jadzia.
Yeah, it's so cool.
With the character Gray, our new Trill character is that I forgot which. Yeah, Gray is the non-binary one, right? That's the Trill.
I don't remember.
I might not
have the names down.
I think you said that Gray was the transgender one.
If there weren't a ton of if they don't do too fan servicey stuff of connecting to other eras of Trek, I wouldn't mind seeing Dax's symbiote show up.
So Gray Dax or Adair, whatever the name is. Being a Dax, yeah.
I don't want Dax as a regular on the ship, but yeah, Dax shows up for a cameo to play wise old man or wise old woman or whatever, and guide them on their way and stuff would be cool.
What else we got?
Yeah, so Adira is the non-binary character who is described as highly intelligent with a confidence and self-assurance beyond their years, and they're the human character. And then, so Gray is.
Hey, Dax has a nice ring to it.
Yeah,
oh my gosh!
So Gray is the Trill and is the transgender character.
Got it.
So yeah, we might have Gray Dax.
It may happen. It's a wild card, though. I don't know if they'll do it. But
in the comments, Robbie says that he hopes we learn a bit more about Trill culture, lots of potential. And Robbie also said that although he's technically a new fan, he's 16. Robbie, I had no idea you were so young. But he said,
happy.
I love old Trek. And
do boys get to have a sweet 16?
Sure.
Picard gave us a lot of nice new lore on the Romulans. So, I wouldn't mind, in general, any given Trek show finding, a voice for some of the other big notable Trek races, and Trill, maybe it's their time.
Well, speaking of DS9, Robbie, did you watch the DS9 panel from Tuesday? That one was interesting to watch. They had Terry Farrell, who played Jadzia Dax, Alexander Siddig, who played Dr. Bashir, Armin Shimmerman, who played Quark, Nana Visitor, who played Kira, and Sirach Lofton, who played Jake Sisko, and Ira Stephen Bear, who was the showrunner from seasons 3 to season 7. That was
a nice
tribute. It
was really, yeah.
We talked about Renee and Aaron having passed away, and
it
was a good panel.
It was a good panel, and just like I love how DS9 being my favorite show, I love how it has like so much respect now that it just like was denied for years, and I like that it was denied. It's true. It's like a common notion these days that DS9 is the best or one of the best Star Trek shows.
But yeah, that was not the case once upon a time, for sure.
I don't know if Was there anything else notable about? I mean, like it's a show that's been off the air for 21 years, so there's like nothing really.
I'll express
new.
one little disappointment is I would like to hear final, like it's just like a desire to hear that like DS9 is going to get an upgrade to HD and remastered effects, like even if it's like episodically, like one episode at a time, it would just be, or like it would just be such a cool thing to hear that news, and I was kind of hoping for it.
I like how like we did like that live stream about that, and I explained like why CBS is not going to pay the money to do that, right. And then like you and PJ and everyone else, it just keeps going back to like, oh well, when are they going to announce that that's going to happen? Like, they're not going to do that until the AI technology gets there. It's not going to happen before. I promise.
We'll
see. I heard what Mike Okuda told me. He said CBS is interested in doing that, but they're never going to spend that much money.
Yeah. But on the upside, the AI technology is almost there now. We're very close on that. So there are fans right now making their own homemade Deep Space Nine HD sets with the over-the-counter software.
That's how we're going to get control, right, from Disco.
The AI HD remaster.
Yeah. It's going to remaster the whole universe.
I don't know about Star Trek, but there is definitely a whole Doctor Who episode in that idea. That video remastering program becomes sentient and uses video remastering to take over the world. So.
Father and I are holding up another show, but I wanted to ask Father, should I hop off and you guys can finish, or because Conti's in the, he's like, you're late.
I thought you could be 5:30.
Oh, if it's 5:30, then we're fine. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. He says we're late now. But all right. Conti, can it be 5:30? Can we go? Let us know.
But I wanted to talk about like Strange New Worlds and how that show is the one I'm looking forward to the most, and the panel got me really excited. We had the three actors that we already know of: Anson Mount, Ethan Peck, and Rebecca Romijn. And then
powerhouse core trio. That's awesome.
They were joined by Akiva Goldsman and two other writers.
Mm-hmm. I was disappointed. Well, I only got halfway through that, so there's no mention of a Dr. Boyce or anything. In the panel, is there? I only heard the first half. I don't
want Dr. Boyce to be on the show.
Well, I think it doesn't have to be Boyce, but I think there needs to be a counterpoint between the heroic and the two intellectuals, and I'm not sure who that is yet in that show.
Father, why don't you want the Doctor? Is it because he's kind of too close to McCoy,
because
or
they already have like 3 white people, and I want them to like go more diverse with the rest of the cast.
Yeah. Well, I'm not asking for Boyce.
They could pull a Kynes in the new Doom 2020, who's different from how we were used to Kynes being portrayed as a man. And
well, that's like it's a different continuity. That's like a whole other.
How dare you bring up Dune?
Sorry,
Dune 2020 is like a different continuity from like the other depictions of Dune. So like if we're trying to like cast someone who's supposed to be literally the same character that we've already seen on the screen, it should be someone who kind of looks like that person.
I mean, that's the weird thing. It's like a Doctor on a starship is going to get a lot of play almost no matter what. So the Doctor almost has to be there just by definition of Star Trek.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. I'm not saying we need Boyce, but we need somebody to represent that other side of the conversation that I'm not seeing in the big
dramatically. They need some character to fill that role.
Yes.
I'd be interested to see what they do. I mean, certainly like none of the other bridge crew is like has been sharply defined on the Enterprise of that era, right? Just so they could kind of do whatever they want.
Yeah. They need the informal character, the not by the book character, the not by the rules character to counterpoint all 3 of those pretty by the book characters. So
Mariner is going to sneak in there.
That might be a bit more than I want.
Akiva Goldsman teased that he wanted to do a crossover between Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks because the first officers are married in real life. And then they kind of like joked around about like, oh, how would we do that? Would it be like Who Framed Roger Rabbit? We had, like, animated and the live action together on screen together.
You go one or the other, and it's the opportunity to either cast actual actors as the Lower Decks characters or to animate Strange New Worlds.
I think that but just based on the fact that all of the voice actors in Star Trek Lower Decks, like they draw all of the characters to look like the voice actors. So I think that they built that option into the show that like if we ever did want to show these people live action, we can do it because they all look like their character. They all look like their voice actor.
Do you think that was a deliberate or an accidental thing that they were deliberately saying we want to be able to do a live action option somehow, some way?
I think it was deliberate.
All right. Interesting.
But sorry, you guys, if you heard my keyboard typing, I apologize.
I didn't hear it.
Okay, good.
But the writers on Strange New World, they were like so giddy and so excited to be working on Star Trek. Like one of them started crying. I can't remember his name. These people are new to me, but I think his last name was Alonzo, and he was like in tears, talking about like how excited he was to be writing Star Trek. And then like
that would be me. I would totally be that person.
The woman writer, how she was talking about how like Uhura and Cisco are like such big heroes to her. And being able to like contribute back to like the franchise, and they were talking about how like we have like 10 episodes. They're all like very different. They're all kind of like their own story. There's one that we're kind of like building to, so I don't know if that's gonna be like the season finale or something. But like this remains the Star Trek show I am the most excited for, and we're gonna get number one's backstory. They're gonna explore that, so we'll have like an in canon origin,
so we can finally have the expanded universe stop coming up with new ones.
Yes, and lay all that to rest.
Yes, please.
And they said that they've actually they've come up with like an interesting kind of like dynamic between the three main characters, which I'm curious about because Brian, is like you and I have pointed out before, like number one and Spock are kind of, they're so similar that like you can't do like the Kirk McCoy Spock thing because they're all three kind of different.
Yeah, and I mean, you could, to take this a Babylon 5 direction, you could certainly do a Delenn Lanier kind of thing with Spock and number one that could be very interesting. But I do think we need Alondo in there somewhere in the group, the Maverick, the rule breaker, to make things even if it's not a main character in every episode.
Did y'all have anything else about?
I hope it's the communications officer. The communications officer hasn't, as historically, never got quite enough to do. I want a Maverick ass communications officer.
That would be fun.
I like that. I like that idea.
Well, they could start giving Bryce stuff to do on Star Trek Discovery. He's the communications officer, but he never really does much.
Yeah, I would say I like the idea that the stories, the A plots are going to be very A plots will be very episodic, but that there's going to be like a B or a C plot of character growth and arcing and the concept. Whatever happens to the characters in this episode, they might still be dealing with the emotional repercussions of that next week.
That's good. That's kind of what I always like in a perfect world would have liked to have seen on the earlier series.
Yeah. So I liked what they were saying about that. That sounds like a good,
So in other words, they'd be like, "Hey, remember last week, Kirk, when you met the love of your life in the 1920s?" And he's like, "Not really." Now he might be like, "Oh yeah." Rough. I actually really like that. That model sounds great to me. If they
one of the quotes from the panel that I'm looking at a Trek movie. It says, "Audiences are sophisticated, and so if Kirk falls in love and the loved one dies, the next week he's going to still feel, and that is the kind of thing we wanted to carry over. We want to bring a modern character sensibility to classic episodic storytelling."
Right? Or somebody could be like, "Picard, you still playing that flute all sad like?" And he's like, "Yeah." Still feeling it.
Yeah.
I hope you're gonna go to the TOS panel next, because I just want to say that like I rewatched it and I thought it was so cool because I knew a lot of George Takei's stories, but Rod Roddenberry was neat to find out more about.
Yeah. Yeah, these are two guys that I've seen speak a lot before, Rod Roddenberry and George Takei. And to me, like, there's nothing new in this panel. I had heard all of this before, but it's always
Will Wheaton seemed to suggest that the story that he told, one of the stories that he told was
the fencing lesson. No, I've heard that before. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've repeated.
You
that
beat
story.
Will Wheaton. You heard a story that Will Wheaton didn't have.
Or he heard it and forgot. But
right.
You know, so George Takei talked a lot about like his childhood in the internment camps, which I think is something that a relevant thing that needs to be talked about because it was kind of ignored in American history for so many decades. Mm-hmm. He talked about how in the 60s he had spoke to Gene Roddenberry when he was still like a closeted gay man about like would we ever like tackle something like issue about like gay people in Star Trek? Would that ever be a thing? And Gene Roddenberry was like, I think that's an important thing to do, but we can't do it because we almost lost the show for just having like an interracial kiss. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of these things I've heard from George Takei before. If you haven't heard these stories, go watch the panel. It's not that long, and I think they're important things to hear. But I was disappointed that it was just George Takei and Rod Roddenberry. I wish they had gotten like Walter to show up. I know that like Nichelle is not healthy enough to do something like this, and Shatner probably wanted too much money and is kind of an asshole that no one wants to work with. But it would have been nice to see like George and Walter together, I think.
Yeah.
And I wish that they would have like acknowledged the animated series. They acknowledge every Star Trek show except for the animated series. They could have just at least,
think this would be the year for it.
Yeah, it's just turned 47. Did y'all have anything to add about like the original series panel? Starfleet Void.
You said it really good. PJ also talks about that. It was very kind of emotional as well. There was a lot of emotion in all of these panels, but it was cool. I will say that I was definitely disappointed that they didn't have like more. And Walter Koenig's still out there, and I know that I will never know what the reasons are behind the scenes, but I would have loved to have seen like Walter Koenig, maybe William Shatner, maybe Nichelle Nichols. So that's the only disappointment I had.
Yeah, it's Nichelle Nichols isn't going to do like any more like public speaking. Like she's
I know
from that. And
but maybe just like I guess this is the thing about everyone's talking about how the 30th anniversary was like the great one. It's like maybe they could have done like a little compilation of interviews, or like how they digitally inserted Avery Brooks into the DS9 doc. They could have taken like older interviews and like put them in just to remind us of why those actors are also a big part of Star Trek.
They should have gone back to like the like interviews from the 80s where they're all low res and young and stuck them in there, but then played it completely straight as if they were edited carefully, so it looks like they're actually there, but super young and just never mentioned what's going on here. No, they shouldn't have done that. That would be terrible. But the mischievous part of me wants to mess with these things.
And that was James Doohan from Beyond the Grave. Thank you, James.
The next panel after the original series, they had the Star Trek Voyager panel, and that was Kate Mulgrew, Captain Janeway, Robert Beltran, Chakotay, Robert Picardo, the Doctor, Robert Duncan McNeil, Tom Paris, Garrett Wong, Harry Kim, Tim Russ or Tuvok, and Ethan Phillips, who played Neelix.
Hey, all turned out, man. That is not like a half-assed collection of the crew.
No, that is, yeah. Given everything Seven of Nine's been up to, it's kind of odd that that her characters had, I guess, but she's not there. Yeah,
but I think I assume that there's still some animosity between her and Kate.
No, like Garrett Wong made them apologize to each other and forgive each other. It's like on camera. Like it was like a convention where Garrett Wong can't we
if you haven't seen it
now? And they hug each other.
I really like that story. It doesn't mean it took though.
It's all performative. They are actors after all.
Yeah. Well, if you in front of a big crowd, if you say, "Hey, can you guys be friends now?" It's not a good look if you say no. Yeah. This is like the kiss cam at like a baseball game or whatever.
Yeah.
I think
it's still a thing you should watch, Dave, just because it is pretty impressive. But
Yeah. No, that sounds great.
For me, as
I
a
have
person
fondness
who
for Voyager,
didn't watch
so
Voyager in its original run and never got through it, I'm actually just like finally in the fourth season. Like I know everything that happens, but like I never gave Voyager a chance. It made me feel really kind of close to these people and endeared because now I'm actually like giving it a fair chance. And I thought it was very interesting that they all expressed how they feel like during the 30th anniversary, they were invited and seeing all the older generations of Star Trek, like the TOS era folks, and thinking those guys are really old, and now they feel like they're really old. And I thought that was like one of the most like relatable and kind of delightful things about that panel.
Trek has been around for so many decades now that there have to be like anybody who gets into Trek probably has to go through that experience of like, oh wow, the TOS actors that are still around, very old. Wow, even the DS9 actors kind of getting there. Like, but I'm the young and new ones, and someday.
It's true. Yeah. One day, Sonequa Martin Green will be Robert Duncan McNeil.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, when I got into Star Trek, it was like the original series people were already like kind of old. Like that was like, oh, that show started 25 years ago. But now, like 25 years ago was when like Voyager started. So.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's just possible that we're aging too. What is this linear construct called time? And how do we stop it?
Someone watching 25 years from now, this video is going to be really baffled when they see us in that time. It's going to be like, whoa, those guys are really old. I thought they were old now.
Let's talk about these last three panels. We have the Star Trek Enterprise panel. That was just like everyone on that show except for Julian Blaylock, who played T'Pol, who she has nothing to do with Star Trek anymore. She doesn't do cons. She doesn't do interviews. She doesn't do anything. But they had everybody else.
That's too bad. Was she like was the fandom just too intense for kind of her experience, or is there some specific thing?
I don't know if she's ever like commented on her reasoning, but she's just like at this point in her life, like the last decade or a little more than that, I think she's just like has nothing to do with the franchise.
I can certainly understand after being a Star Trek sort of sex object type character or a sex symbol type character, how getting away from the fandom might be desirable.
I do remember that, like, right after they announced the cancellation of Enterprise, she did this very scathing interview about what her experience, how they had screwed her character up, and how unhappy she was with working on the show. Like it was like 2 days later or something. I was like, wow, that was quick.
Emotions high.
And I don't know if that's why she doesn't want to be part of fandom or not, because oftentimes, whatever the behind the scenes was, fandom is often a very different experience, because there'll be a huge number of people who love you no matter how miserable you were behind the scenes. They still think that was great, and they still want to hear about from you.
Before Discovery, Enterprise got the most hate from like the general fan population, and I feel like that poor show just had a lot going against it. And I, again, guilty as charged, was one of the people that didn't watch Enterprise in its original airing because I was like a continuity and canon cop.
Like hate watching it or something. Yeah,
I hated that it didn't look the way it should have, in my opinion. It would look too TNG.
I absolutely did some hate watching of Voyager and Enterprise back in the day, but season 4 of Enterprise is amazing. Go check that out.
Yes, and it's unfortunate because every Berman era Star Trek show has a rough couple of initial seasons, and then starts getting better in like season 3 and 4, and is normally great by season 4.
And then ends on a great note.
Enterprise
hit its greatness.
They didn't get their shot. Did the crew in this in the get together? What did they talk about? Like, did they talk about it all? Do they like how public are they about talking about the show's the fandom's distaste for the show, or perhaps renewed appreciation now?
They often feel like they weren't given like enough of a shot, and that like they said that the show improved over time, and that they were still like the highest viewed show on UPN. They didn't mention this, but it's something that I've heard Larry Nemeczek point out, is that like in 2004, when that last season of Enterprise started and it got canceled because their ratings were too low, it still had like more viewers than Battlestar Galactica that was being praised as like one of the best shows on TV. It's like, well, Enterprise still has like more people watching.
Well, there's a huge difference between what's expected, what's good ratings in broadcast television, and what's good ratings in cable.
On
That's
a cable
not a
channel,
terribly good comparison there.
But it's just like more people were still digging Enterprise in its lowest rated season than were watching Galactica at the time. I just like to point that out. But
nice.
And Scott Bakula, they talked a lot about like how Scott Bakula was such like he was a great person to work with. Being the star of a TV show, that person can either like be like a dick or be like really nice, and they kind of like set the tone of like the working environment. And everyone's like he was like really cool. He was great to. He would like shake everyone's hand at like the end of a day, like like all of the crew, like all of the sound people and the camera people. You just like shake everyone's hand and be like, okay, like, good job today.
So Scott Bakula is a massive COVID vector. So
yes.
I have a feeling that Anson Mount is going to kind of continue that tradition. I don't know if he'll literally be that kind of like that generous on set, but he seems like that kind of guy because he seems like his character.
He's Captain Pike in real life.
Yeah.
I love Anson Mount.
Yeah, me too. I agree. And do you guys listen to the Well podcast? It's great. If you don't check it out. Yeah.
That's his podcast.
He's had Ethan Peck on there. So it's like Pike
and he does it with his really close friend Brandon Edgens, who used to be a makeup artist in cinemas, and now he does a variety of other things, including producing soundtracks. I mean, podcasts.
All right. Well, we just have like a few minutes left. The last two I want to talk about was like the Lower Decks panel. The cool thing there was they announced that Tawny Newsome, who voices
Mariner.
They're finally giving her that podcast that they brought up a year ago. There's going to be another Star Trek podcast.
The Pod Directive is the name of the
Pod Directive.
And what's going to be the vibe of that podcast?
Well, I think it'll be kind of like Engage, the official podcast that Jordan Hoffman did. So I think it'll just be more like interviews and a little bit behind the scenes type stuff.
But not like her, like, not like a specific her vision, but like a more formal, official type of thing.
She's like employed to be the host of it.
Right. She's going to bring the personality, but she is not like the kind of content planner, maybe.
Right.
But she's like, I don't know.
She's a big Star Trek fan, and she also has like a lot of podcast experience. She's been on other stuff. They also had like the trailer for the second half of the Lower Decks season, and that there's I don't want to like spend too much time talking on that because I kind of like turned away. I didn't want to like get spoilers. But they announced a classic Star Trek character returning, and Q is going to show up on Lower Decks.
Right. No missing that one.
And also Kurtwood Smith, who is a Trek veteran guest star, is going to show up.
Is he going to be playing like he was like the president at one point and Among Us?
Yeah.
Is he going to be playing that character?
He's the dad on that 70s show.
Yeah. And he's to me he's Clarence Boddicker from RoboCop. But he always brings a presence. And what was he was great in the Voyager episode. He was
Year of Hell.
Year of Hell, yeah, that's where I always think of him.
That's right.
Yeah, a kind of
he's so great. You're right, he's so great. That seems like a two-parter, and it's only a one-parter. It's such a great episode.
It is a two-parter.
Yeah. There's a reason it seems like a two-parter.
Yeah. That was given that he like played like so kind of such an icy evil in RoboCop. That was like a nuanced evil. And he's he does really bring something different to his roles. He's wider variety than I would have guessed.
Yeah. So it's a sad story that all he was trying to do is bring back that one little moment in time.
Yeah, we did a whole podcast on that two-parter that people should go check out. Because 2020 was a very topical year to talk about the Year of Hell.
Mm-hmm. They mentioned in the Lower Decks thing about how having all of the Berman era set design put into the animated series into Lower Decks was calming to people to watch it and to see those that old familiar architecture. They said it was calming, and I was like, that's an interesting. Do you guys have that reaction when you watch it? Do you find that architecture calming?
And I felt that way when they used to have that tour of the Enterprise that you could go through, and I would spend hours just like touring the Enterprise D halls, and I used to make my wallpaper on my computer just the hallway because I just didn't like it. Just feels like home to me because I was a teenager kind of, and I spent so much time in my imagination there that it feel like it. I can totally agree
cool
with that. Yeah,
I mean, I've heard people in a critical way say that TNG's bridges look too much like kind of like luxury hotels or something like that. But and there is some design sensibility to that, but those places are designed to be relaxing, tranquil places, and so that was the somewhat more let's talk it out show. So yeah, I can absolutely see it. Like, I don't know if I particularly feel it that strongly because I didn't bond with TNG so hard when it first came out. But yeah, I like that people are getting that out of it.
And I like that it's a little bit more of like the post TNG 24th century look. Like it's more like the stuff we would see on ships and like DS9 and Voyager, and then like the First Contact era movies. So I kind of prefer that more than like early TNG.
The quiet hum of a warp drive in the background.
But, that's
I used to listen to that YouTube that's like 3 hours long of just bridge sounds. I would have it on just to chill, and I should do that again. Actually, it's a great way to meditate and just like relax in the evening. I think it's a really good idea instead of white noise.
I used to have a cassette tape of the original series, like all the like computer beeps and stuff, and I would listen to that. We should talk about the Picard / Next Generation panel. It's the last thing. That was just Patrick Stewart, Jonathan Frakes, and Will Wheaton. And I
wanted more. I wanted more people. It was the Picard TNG panel, and the TNG representation seemed to be Will Wheaton, and Will Wheaton had to be the host, and Jonathan Frakes, and the Picard representation was just.
I really liked what I got. I really liked.
Too, yeah.
I liked what we got. I think that would have been more interesting than just another rehash of stuff we've seen at conventions.
Guys, I'm gonna leave you unceremoniously only because I'm getting reports that people are getting mad at me. So I'll go hold down the fort. But I really enjoyed this conversation so much. So I just can't wait.
I'll be over there in a couple of minutes because we're about to close off. But
thanks for having me. This was so much fun.
Thanks for joining us.
See you next time. Cheers.
Yep.
I think a question of Trek might have had I think we might have had some time zone confusion, because I think when he told me 5:30 my time, he actually meant 4:30 my time or something. But anyways,
fucking temporal Cold War.
The thing of this panel that I wanted to mention before I have to leave in a couple of minutes is Will Wheaton confessed to Jonathan Frakes and Patrick Stewart that how he had felt let down by his biological family, but he was so thankful to have his TNG cast and have that family, and how that was so meaningful to him as a young man. And that was it was a very heartfelt thing, and Patrick and Jonathan were so receptive to it. And anytime you have any of those TNG people together, it's just you always feel the love between them.
Yeah,
Will is good at expressing sort of sincerity like that.
Yeah, it is. If you want something with all the feels, then check it out.
Yeah, so. and Patrick Stewart said that he's seen the scripts of the first 4 episodes. The first 4 episodes of Picard season 2, and he says that it's going to be very different. So I'm curious what he means by that. But that's all the details. We didn't get anything more than that.
Reading between by definition, it has to be a little bit different.
Yeah. Reading between the lines, my hunch is that some of that is going to be, I'm an android now, angst. But that was one way you could
harp on that. I think they just hit the reset button. He's just gonna be like normal Picard. It's I'm
just saying that's one way that interpretation would fit with the hints he gives about what those 4 episodes are. I'm not saying that is what they're doing. They might be doing something else.
If that's the case.
Yeah.
What if he's just like normal Picard, but very regularly he does the robot and stuff?
That would also be disappointing.
I think it'd be a cool new direction. actually.
That's the conclusion of the Star Trek Day panels, though. So anyone checking this out, if you have any thoughts on it, or let us know like what your favorite panels were, or if you were disappointed, if you were hoping for something more.
I want to know what they thought the best moments were, the coolest, funniest, weirdest moments.
Yeah, leave a comment and let us know, and we shall return Friday night at 7:30 Central to continue our Star Trek Lower Decks podcast. We'll be talking about Lower Decks Season 1, Episode 7, Much Ado About Boimler.
Yes, if only we had a Shakespeare expert on that show.
Oh, man, that sure would be great. I'm sure they're going to dive deep into it. I will watch the episode, and I'll see what I think. But it will probably be blood has come from my eyes.
Dave is Star Trek Lower Decks' biggest fan.
I don't hate it. Just not into it.
Well, everyone, go check out whatever is going on with a Continuum Trek and A Question of Trek, because I think I'll be over there. I'll go find out.
Go find out if they've killed Starfleet Boy. If it's too grim, you might decide to just avoid it.
So I'm gonna go check out that scene. But Dave, Brian, thank you for joining me.
Yep.
And everyone out there, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.